Om Apyayantu mamangani Vakpranaschakshushrotramatho Balamindriyani cha sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarot Anirakaranamastu Anirakaranam me astu Tadatmani Nirateya Upanishatsu Dharma Te Mai Santu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The topic of this webinar is on one hand supposed to be much easier than the exalted Brahma Vidya, which is the main topic of Upanishads. In that sense, all of us are coming one notch below to Yoga Shastra, also called Dharma Shastra, also referred to as Niti Shastra, for it is all about certain personality development. It's about preparing our mind. It's not about the final leap from the finite to the infinite. It's not about going beyond space and time. Rather, this Dharma Shastra is about getting better within the domain of space and time. Why do we call certain portions in almost every Upanishad Dharma Shastra? What is Dharma? As many of you know, Dharma literally means that which holds you. What is meant by holding us? To use a colloquial expression, when we are in conflict, when we have low self-esteem, when we have varieties of things bothering us, we are, the colloquial expression is, we are in pieces. We want to be at peace, but we find we are in pieces. It is torturous. We feel so fragmented. And that is where Dharma comes in. The Shastras say to us, if there were to be Dharma in us, even while facing Himalayan challenges, we will be able to hold ourselves together. We are held in place. We are held in one piece by our Dharma. Therefore goes the famous statement of Manusmriti, Dharmo Rakshati Rakshitaha. If we protect Dharma, Dharma will protect us. In Manusmriti and couple of other Smritis, Smritis being the best representatives of Dharma Shastra, we have a definition of Dharma. There are many, but one of them gives 10 qualities of Dharma. Before entering Kenopanishad, let me tell you what those 10 are. They are put into a single shloka. Dhritikshama damo asteyam shaucham indriya nigraha dhihi vidya satyam akrodaha dashakam dharma lakshanam. Dharma is marked by these 10 characteristics of anybody who is living. Every one of us, living being, suppose has fortitude, able to hold our ground when challenges stare in our face. We are able to bear with hardships and forgive people who, in their ignorance, might injure us. We have great control over our mind, which is mainly emotions, that is damaha. Asteyam, we don't steal. either physical property or intellectual property of anybody. We are observing cleanliness, shaucham, outer and inner, indriya nigraha. For Dhamma was taken as mano nigraha. Indriya nigraha is explicitly given control over the organs of perception. Then we have dhihi. Whenever choices come before us, we choose intelligently. Dhihi is intelligence. Vidya, in order that we may actually choose rightly, we are constantly pursuing right understanding. Wisdom, Satyam, and Akrodha. We are truthful and we are free of anger, that is destructive anger. So, what you have when you look at this example, what you have as definition of dharma is nothing but human values. Those of us who have a high degree of control on what we do, what we say, and what we think, those of us who are clean in our transactions, those of us who don't just go for tit for tat, rather, when somebody does some mischief, not that we shut our eyes to it, we bear with that and then do what is appropriate, not react in immature ways. These are all human values. Therefore, in that light, we are here at this webinar 195 to examine what dharma is taught. In other words, what human values are presented in Kenopanishad, the famous Upanishad of Sāmaveda. The very name Upanishad has three meanings, and I will share just one meaning for this occasion. It is the wisdom that shakes the foundations of our worldliness. We are not talking about the world, but we tend to be worldly, running after mere sense pleasure, mere money, mere position, mere fame and name, mere glitter and glamour. Then it is called worldliness, which is in us. And Upanishad means a certain outlook, a certain understanding, certain wisdom that dilutes this worldliness. Then it paves the way for helping us rise completely for good above worldliness. This session's topic is not about rising above all worldliness, but it's about getting stable in righteous ways. Then there is worldliness, but it is held under check. There is ego, but the ego behaves well. Whereas in moksha, in the liberation, in the transcendental wisdom called Brahma Vidya, the ego vanishes. That is mind blowing. Though we appear to be like individuals in others' eyes, we look at ourselves no more as individuals. We know that we are a certain simple presence. Our personality does not weigh heavily upon us when that Moksha Shastra is attained. But now the topic is not Moksha Shastra, not the wisdom of liberation. It is the wisdom of personality integration. How fragmented personalities can turn around and become integrated. Like in mathematics, you have fractions 2 by 3 or 3 by 4 or 7 by 8. These are fractions expressed with a decimal point, 0.75 or 0.63 or 0.37 fractions. Whereas integers, whole numbers, that is the language of mathematics. But in the science of living, in this wisdom of right living, we use the expression fragmentation and integration to imply living in conflict, self-censure, self-contempt, and self-rejection, and so on. That is a fragmented life. And living in a certain graceful acceptance of who we are and doing the best possible. That is integration. When you and I are integrated, we may be rich, we may be poor, we may be scholarly, or we may not much have any scholarship. Those things do not matter. But we do what we say, and we are open, we are transparent, and with maybe just a little means of livelihood, we will come out with a genuine smile on our face, which is a greater wealth than the outer wealth which is chased, pursued in the world. So, in the Kenopanishad, I must place before you the most prominent mantra which touches upon human personality integration. It comes towards the end of the Upanishad. As we said in our last webinar, this Upanishad is one of the shortest Upanishads. The entire Upanishad has only 34 mantras, and the mantra that I am referring to appears as the eighth mantra in the last section. After that, there is only one more mantra. So, out of the 34, this is the 33rd mantra, and the setting for that mantra to emerge from the teacher's mouth is interesting. After all wisdom was taught, highest Brahma Vidya was revealed, there were a few students in whose case everything went above their head. And one of them gathered the courage to get up and say to the teacher, Sir, please teach us Brahma Vidya. So far, the teacher was teaching Brahma Vidya, but the boy says, or it could be a girl, please teach me Brahma Vidya. Like somebody takes you around some beautiful city of Bangalore or Jaipur. After all that, when the guide says any question, you ask the guide, tourist guide, um, I have a question. When will you take us to Bangalore? When will you show us Jaipur? The guide will be flabbergasted. I just showed these people the entire Bangalore or the entire Jaipur, and here this man is asking, Show me Jaipur. But if the guide is very loving, very compassionate, he will answer it with great patience. Sure, come again tomorrow morning. I will show you the entire city without making one negative comment, without using any unparliamentary language. Likewise, the Guru here in the Kenopanishad, upon being asked, Upanishadam Bo Bruhi, tell us the highest secret. One of the meanings of the word Upanishad is a great secret. In the context, it is the secret of the liberating wisdom. Upanishadam Bho Bruhi, please tell me. And the teacher says, Well, we taught you Upanishad, but looks like you didn't get it. Never mind. Then comes the mantra I am referring to. Upanishad wisdom is called Brahma Vidya. In grammar, Brahma Vidya is a feminine noun. Therefore, the ninth mantra, ninth is the last, eighth mantra, the mantra of utmost relevance, begins with the pronoun tasyai. For that, for what? For that Brahma Vidya, for that Upanishadic wisdom which can totally set you free, you first have to equip yourself with a few things, and five values are mentioned. You may call these values, you may call these practices, you may call these disciplines. Tasyai tapaha, Damaha karma iti pratishta. These are the foundation. Vedaha sarvangani. Vedaha is the fourth factor. Regular study of spiritual texts and satyam ayatanam. Truthfulness is the very abode in which Brahma Vidya lives. If the abode is destroyed, go and destroy the hut in which a poor man lives. That poor man will not survive. The hut, the house, shelters that person. Likewise, if Satya were to go out of our life, though we may pretend to be smart, actually we will come to ruin. Satya, truthfulness. Therefore, this mantra, Tasyai tapodama karmeti pratishta Veda sarvangani satyamayatanam, gives five human values. And really speaking, this alone should be enough to point out how Kenopanishad not only talks about the transcendental wisdom but also comes to our level and asks us to live in a more value based manner. What is tapaha, the first of the five? Shankaracharya, especially in Taittiriya Bhashya, gives a clear definition. He says, Bahi Bahya Antakarananam Samadhana. Outer instruments, that is, hands, legs, etc., or eyes, ears, etc., and Antakarana, Bahyakarana, Antakarana is the mind. In other words, our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin, our hands, feet, mouth, and other organs of action, our mind, our intellect, all of them have to learn to operate with certain coherence, certain steadiness, certain stability. Samadhana is bringing them together. Our mind should be where our hands are. Our hands are somewhere doing some work and the mind is 100 miles away, imagine. Then there is no tapas. Tapaha is certain discipline, certain austerity. Doing small or big things, we are very focused and we do it well. As Sri Krishna says in the Gita, Karyam Karma Samachara. Karyam karma means duties. When it comes to your duties, for heaven's sake, do them properly. Achara means do them. Samachara, do them properly. So tapaha is not just going to some mountains or to some cave and sitting with eyes closed. That could be one form of tapas. But more importantly, if we are to listen to Adi Shankaracharya, tapaha is day in and day out. We do things with heart and soul. We keep the mind where the hands are. Bahya and antakarananam samadhanam coming together. Then, as the saying goes, the end is the means itself in another form. If this is how we go about our day, then this acts as the means, and the end also is great samadhanam. Samadhanam means ekagrata. When the Upanishad statements are heard, we get it right away. Otherwise, we do lip service to Vedanta. We hear, but our mind runs already. I think this is what some other teacher also had said. Oh, I know this. Rather than imbibing the meaning of the Vedanta statement, we do some unnecessary comparison with somebody else's statement and so on, and we want something new, which is a sign of restlessness of the mind, which is unfortunate. So, tapaha, tasyai tapo damaha. If we don't plug the holes of the cylinder where water is filled, if the holes are left unplugged, all the water just leaks away. Likewise, you and I every morning get a lot of new energy. But if we are indulging in various pleasures without rhyme or reason, we do not exercise any control over our engagement of the organs. It doesn't have to be eating, drinking only, even talking too much, or the opposite, keeping the mouth shut even when you are required to say something. All of that is, alas, a departure from right handling of organs of action and organs of perception. So we need to keep an eye. We need to keep an eye on the operation of our sense organs and organs of action. Begin with speech. In Viveka Chudamani it is said, Yogasya pratamam dwaram vang nirodha. If we exercise restraint both ways, not to say what should not be said, and to say at the right time in the right way what has to be said. Both are important. If we are not saying right thing at the right time, we are unduly passive. If we are saying things which ought not to be said, we are irresponsible or aggressive or gossip mongering, all of which doesn't do well. All of it doesn't help in spiritual matters. Tasyai tapodamaha karma. Various duties, secular and religious, have to be performed. That is when the personality slowly gets tuned up, if we may use a word from radio engineering. When a radio is tuned or a television is tuned, perfect music or speech becomes audible or visible. If the instrument is out of tune, then even though the broadcasting station has sent it at the right time, our instrument will not be able to give to us the music or the video. So, this personality needs to be tuned, and to do so, karmas have been prescribed. We must study, we must learn from competent teachers, and nobody is going to force anything upon you. They will tell you the logic behind it, they will tell you how this karma helps, and only if it appeals to your reason, take it up. But once you take it up, do it regularly. These days, even teachers like Sadguru, Jaggi Vasudev, Sri Ravi Shankar have been popularizing some karmas. Sudarshana Kriya or inner engineering, Shambhavi Mudra, some other name. They have packaged it in various ways. These are modern forms of karma. Otherwise, in olden days, Agnihotra and some Vedic rituals were common. Does not matter. Pick up some karmas after giving due thought, due consideration, and do them. Fourth is Vedaha, regular study. Fifth is Satyam. We talked about both these before. It is study that extends our horizons of knowledge. Unless we know how our inner mind operates, unless we know how the world operates, how will we handle situations properly? We will make wrong judgments. We'll take a friend for a foe and we'll take a foe for a friend. And those wrong judgments land us in more trouble than before. Therefore, regular study. Listen to wise people. Study good books. Vedas represent all the books of wisdom on the highest plateau. If we are not equipped to study Vedas directly, we have scriptures which echo the same teachings in simpler ways. Then comes Satyam, is truth. To be truthful, at least begin with avoiding lies which can be avoided. For in careless living, as the expression goes, people tell a lie at the drop of a hat. Even when they can speak the truth, it has become their habit to tell a lie, to be unduly secretive, to mislead people, and so on. In 9 out of 10 situations, when we examine carefully, there is no need to hide anything, to mislead anybody, especially. Lie means misleading. 9 out of 10 situations, we have to gather a little courage and maybe softly say to the other person the truth who is asking for some information. In 1 out of 10, it may be quite difficult. You tell the truth and it leads to a lot of complications, or you are letting down somebody else who has to taken a promise from you not to tell anybody. That case you will have to manage in a dexterous manner. Sometimes there also, instead of telling a lie, upon being asked, you may say, please do not ask me on these matters. And rather than saying, so and so has told me not to tell you, that would be unpleasant, you may have to say, nowadays I find that telling somebody about someone else leads to more and more complications. Let's mind our business. In this way, without telling a lie, you may stay firm. You may stand your ground and not divulge things that you know about somebody. So, the 1 out of 10 also is not always difficult. Then, some rare kind of situation where it's extremely difficult not to tell a lie can be handled. First, begin with all these easy ones. You will find you will conserve energy. Therefore, I will not go long on this. For a few minutes, I will now spend on certain other mantras. In fact, when I quickly made a list, I found as many as 6 places where the uh, 5 and 1 6. 6 places where Dharma Shāstra can be recognized in Kenopanishad. In fact, one of the 6 is not a single mantra. One of those 6 places is a whole story that runs into some 9 mantras. Once Devas and Asuras had a battle, and Devas, the gods, residents of heaven, won over the demons, which was good. But the demons, when they went away, here are the gods who felt very proud. Ha, we won, we are the greatest, we are the smartest. Some amount of arrogance crept in. And to teach them a lesson, the mantras go. Third section, the entire third section is about this story. Brahma devebhyo vijigye tasya brahmano vijaye devaha amahiyanta. That's how it starts. So that story has a lot of suggestions for all of us. Whenever success smiles upon us, we need to be extremely on our guard. We must not feel superior to others. We must not think that we are some special beings, specially created by God or some such thing. We must remain humble. In this story, when Devas were celebrating and felt too proud, God appears before all of the gods as a very luminous, huge figure. That luminous figure is called yaksha. This yaksha may be different from the other yakshas, the category called yakshas. Leave them aside. But this luminous figure, and the devas were at a loss to know who this is. And Indra says to Vayu, to Agni, go find out who this luminous figure is. And to make the long story short, when Vayu goes and claims that he can blow away anything, that luminous figure, yaksha, places a blade of grass before Vayu, wind god, and says, try to blow this off, please. And Vayu tries with all his might, but could not do anything to that blade of grass. Likewise, Agni, fire god, could not burn even a blade of grass while he was claiming he can burn anything under the sun. Then Indra goes and Yaksha does not give him audience at all, does not show up at all, vanishes. It is a blow, it's a real blow to his ego, like slap on his face. Indra, all the same, assumes a humble posture. He remains prayerful rather than grinding his teeth, rather than saying some improper words. Where did this yaksha disappear? I was about to catch him, or some such irresponsible words. He remains in a prayerful mood, and that is when Mother Parvati, called Uma Haimavati in this Kenopanishad, appears and says to Indra, look, that was God Himself who came as this yaksha. That's where the story ends. I would include it in the samagri, in the material that falls under Dharma Shāstra, because if we truly reflect on this story and look within, we realize all those occasions where we felt too proud of ourselves, and we realize that is not healthy. We do what we can and move on. All that we have been able to do has been made possible by God. The moment God withdraws His blessings from us, we won't be able to lift even a blade of grass. Whatever we did, the credit goes to God. In this way, with a deep appreciation of the spiritual religious philosophy, we can stay free from the ego. Staying free from ego, according to Ramana Maharshi, is the highest tapas. In the last verse of Upadeshasara, he says, Ahamapetakam nijavibhanakam mahadidam tapo ramanavagiyam. Aham apetakam. If one can stay free of any egoism, I hasten to add, we ought to stay free from either I am superior idea or the idea of I am inferior. No high, no low. I am among all. I am one among all. Even though I got a trophy and these 10 people did not get, that does not mean I am superior to them. That trophy, that recognition was incidental and it is over. Now I am very much like anyone else. So, with a certain humility and openness of mind, when you and I move around, then that is the greatest tapas. Mahadidam tapaha Ramana Vagyam, says Maharshi Ramana. So this story illustrates that. Now, which are the other four places? In the second section, Kenopanishad says, those who know Brahman do not say, I know Brahman. And those who go around and say, I know Brahman, I can teach you. And they don't know. Yasya matam tasya matam matam yasya na vedasaha. Avidnatam vijanatam vidnatam avijanatam is the third mantra in the second section, which shows again the importance of being free from egoism. One who truly knows Brahman doesn't need to show or let everybody know, look, I got knowledge of Brahman. Where are you? How far have you come? All that is nonsense. In this Sri Ramakrishna story, two boys return from Gurukula after many years, and the father says to the first boy, tell me what Brahma Vidya you learnt. And the first boy narrates or recites so many mantras of Vedanta. Then the father asks the second boy, you tell me what is Brahma Vidya. All that the second boy does is put his head down, does not speak a single word. And the father says to the villagers who had surrounded this family at that time, this second boy knows Brahman. The one who said nothing, he just put his head down. The father appreciated him. Of course, the father understood his state of mind. Simply by putting our head down, we don't become Brahmajnanis. But by context, that second boy knew that no amount of talking can do justice to Brahman. Then we have seen three. The fourth one is, you see, in Dharma Shāstra, there are teachings which motivate you, which bring to you a certain inspiration. And there is a mantra, the fifth mantra of second khanda, which says human life is truly fulfilled if one gains Brahmajnana. Iha chedavedit ata satyamasti na chediha vedin mahato vinashtihi is the mantra I am referring to. When we read such mantras, we roll up our sleeves and say, oh, yeah, my God, I have been wasting time on lots of unnecessary things. I must now focus on Brahma Vidya. So it motivates us to engage in the pursuit of the highest truth which can set us free. In this way, we saw four, and I quickly want to mention another two mantras. In fact, the fourth section, the fourth mantra, gives not a value or not a karma, but what we may call an upasana. It says if you cannot understand Brahman, at least develop a certain reverence for that highest truth. And think of the highest truth as something like the flash of a lightning, or something like the quick closing and opening of your eyes. And the next mantra, the fifth mantra, the fourth mantra gave that lightning and so on. The fifth mantra talks about how in one's mind only one can visualize the presence of Brahman. Then there is sixth mantra which uses the word Tadvana, most desirable, most lovable. You don't know what Brahman is, but know this much without any doubt. If there is anything most lovable in this universe, that is Brahman, that is God, that is the truth of the Upanishads. So develop in yourself a certain reverence, love, respect, an intense feeling, and then you will come around and you will be able to understand the teaching itself, which would be jnana. To develop devotion is through karma and upasana. In this way, some six or seven mantras out of the 34 mantras, not many really, Kenopanishad has plenty of guidance on Brahma Vidya proper, and a few mantras like we picked up in this session in the context of Dharma Shāstra. We may develop a certain mindset. Dharma Shāstra cleanses our way of living and blesses us, bestows upon us a mindset that is receptive to the highest wisdom. In Ramana Gita, Sri Maharshi Ramana says, Yat karma sukritam proktam manovakaya sambhavam tattu karmantaram hanti manovakaya sambhavam. In years and years of our life, or probably in previous lives, we have committed foolish, sinful actions by mind, manaha, by speech, vak, or by hands, kaya. Mano, vak, kaya, sambhavam, hanti. How do we destroy that? How do we remove it? Yat karma sukritam proktam. Never mind what you did all these years, all these lives. For starting now, do sukrita. How do I do it? Using the same three instruments, using which you efficiently did wrong things. Now use the same to do right things. So the expression Mano Vakkaya Sambhavam comes twice in the same shloka. Yat karma sukritam proktam Mano Vakkaya Sambhavam Tattu karmantaram hanti Mano Vakkaya Sambhavam. Good works that we may take up now with our mind, speech, and body destroy the effects of all the wrong things that we had done using mind, speech, and body. What a simple, straightforward guidance Maharshi gives in Ramana Gita. In this way, Dharma Shāstra is about living attentively, living alertly, living going by time tested values. Then, when we ripen, when we get ready, that fundamental shift in our understanding of who we are, what life is all about happens. When that fundamental shift happens, it is moksha. But all this dharma is to make possible the so-called wonder of wonders, moksha. Om Namah Paramarashibhyo, Namah Paramarashibhya, Harihi Om.
In Brahmajnana, I get confused with inner vision versus the role of mind and intellect in grasping the Brahmajnana. What is the difference in the inner vision and the role of mind and intellect?
Yeah, the mind and intellect are inside only. They are not outside like hands or feet. And therefore, this inner vision is what happens in your mind and intellect. So, to be more specific, in the buddhi, the intellect. The buddhi presently has a misconception that you are the body and mind, the personality. In that very buddhi, a new understanding takes place. And that understanding is such, it's very unique. Even as it takes place, it winds up everything. It brings about the winding up, folding up of the prarabdha karma, personality story, and all that. So therefore, both are the same. Inner vision, there is nothing like an inner vision somewhere else. It's in the buddhi. The buddhi had false knowledge, and now the buddhi has right knowledge.
Good. Thanks, Swamiji.
Welcome. Did Krishnan have a question? Or maybe you were just trying out the mic? Or Krish Chelukuri, I don't know whether some people tried to speak that time, I guess.
No question, Swamiji. I just wanted to say we enjoyed the seminar today. It's a tough topic, but I understood some of that.
Sure. Yeah. Right. Sucheta Garu has a question, I think. She raised her hand.
Yeah, Swamiji. So, when we are talking about dharma and values, we know that we are not there completely, like we are following,
Correct.
try to follow. So, should we stay away from like just study on just gnana and agnana? Like Ashtavakra teaches all the time the difference between gnani and agnani.
Yes, yes.
Is it, should we stay away from studies like that?
No, no, that is only for exceptional people. You and I should do selective study. We should never abandon study. We should never say, I have studied enough and sell away or gift away all the books. Rather, earlier maybe we were taking interest in a lot of topics. Now we must take interest in such topics about which our own heart says, I need this. This is giving me better clarity. Whereas there are some issues which are just repetition or which are more to improve our language, Sanskrit or Hindi, English or Telugu, whatever. Some alankara, as they call it. For example, something is said in plain black and white, and then the same thing is said in a beautiful poetic manner. Now you and I may say, I'm satisfied with poetry. Now I don't want to just spend time on mere poetry. If there is confirmation or reinforcement of right knowledge, I'll go for it. Otherwise not. So we need to economize our mental energies and stay focused on studies. Therefore, the mantra I quoted, Tasyai tapodama karmeti pratishta vedaha sarvangani. Vedaha is the word indicating the necessity for regular study. Let that study not become irrelevant or too far spread, far-fetched and all that. Then it doesn't, it should be, we must let go of simple stuff as we advance. But we must be true to our conscience. Sometimes we might have forgotten some basic principles. Then it makes sense to study again the most basic stuff.
Yeah, but you think Ashtavakra is too much to focus?
Ashtavakra can be part of your material, but don't stay only with Ashtavakra. Ashtavakra is also very helpful because he takes you to the peak. And,
Yes.
and if you are truly capable, then he is enough. But generally, most of us are not truly capable. We enjoy for a moment. Then our mind is bothered by a few other things. That
Thank you
is
so much.
correct. That's when so think of a pyramid and put like what you call it, food pyramid is there, like that. Think of Vedanta pyramid and do keep Ashtavakra on top, but do have Viveka Chudamani or Gita or Upanishads, etc. And go back and forth and cover all of them. That is, let it be a balanced diet.
Thank you so much.
One or two more questions, then we shall wind up.
Harivom Swamiji, Namaste.
Yes.
I have you partly answered the question, but just to have the clarity, when we subject ourselves to rigorous self-examination, I would say being more introspective, we have our inner visions and inner truth, which may conflict with Vedas. It's not what is being said in Upanishads, and so where do we land? Is it our inner truth that really tells us what is being right for me, or no, just I have to lean on Vedas and that's the right thing and I have to follow? Where do we seek knowledge? How do we go about with that kind of conflict?
You must consult a competent Vedanta teacher. She or he will show you that there is no conflict. The teacher will show you that you perhaps had taken the Vedic or Upanishadic teaching in a certain limited sense. Therefore, it seemed to run contrary to your inner voice. Otherwise, the Upanishads have the truth, and the inner voice may have some problem. The inner voice will have to rise to the Upanishadic height. So the inner voice may be a little bit made impure by some vasanas. You know. So better to consult because this is rather unlikely. Yeah, Upanishads cannot be wrong. Inner voice can be wrong. See, Hitler's inner voice very clearly said to him, finish off Jewish people. Now there are the jihadis, terrorists. Their inner voice very clearly with what you call in no uncertain terms says to them, kill the non-believers and you will go to heaven. So that the problem is with that inner voice. Their inner voice is ill-informed. Their inner voice without their knowledge has made room for prejudice and hatred. So our inner voice could sometimes be wrong. Therefore, consulting a teacher will help us getting the true meaning of Upanishads. Then we find where we need to correct ourselves.
So the truth has nothing to do with it then.
At a given point of time, inner voice is the best available guidance for you in your resources, among your resources. Yeah, it points to the truth, but occasionally it could be wrong, inner voice.
Thank you, Swamiji. Dhanyavad.
See, one more example, these Western religions, lot of people, the sincere, devout followers of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, they really think of idol worship as something terribly wrong. So their inner voice says, how can these guys, these Hindus, worship a stone? It's wrong, it's against the 10 Commandments, etc. But the truth of the matter is that 10 Commandments they haven't understood properly. They don't like to hear that. But Murti Puja is first class, is perfectly all right. See, that's how their inner voice is wrong. Their inner voice says sometimes, go tell all these idol worshippers to stop it immediately. And they try to do that. You know, sometimes some very well-educated Christian priests are found to be saying that those who worship the idols, those who do not accept Jesus will go to hell and all that. That is their, in spite of their scholarship, in one area they are badly mistaken. Jesus would never have said, I and I alone will liberate you. It must be a narrow understanding of the concept of Jesus. So I'm giving just an example. Our inner voice could be misled by some hidden vasanas or false prabhavas, false influences. Last question.
Swamiji, this is Pravina. One quick question. So, Swamiji, that means that when you said the truth, satyam definition, so the inclusion or exclusion can be untruth. Not saying is also untruth when it's timed properly, or misleading is also untruth. Right, Swamiji?
Yeah, any violation of satya is asatya. So violation of truth can be in various ways. It need not be in spoken form only.
Mm-hmm.
We mislead, and sometimes even behavior. We pretend to be something while actually we are something else. We are not said a word, but we are pretending. Let's say somebody is pretending to be rich. Actually, he is poor. That is also asatya. So our own conscience, well-informed conscience, I must add, our own well-informed conscience will tell us one day, hey, stop this. Whom are you trying to deceive? And so on. If our conscience is ill-informed, inadequately informed, it will pat us on the back. Yeah. In such situations, you have to do this. Don't tell them the truth now. You for some more days pretend to be very rich. Let them not know you are poor. The ill-informed and a little misguided conscience can do that. That's why some tapas, some sadhana is required. We have to polish our own inner voice. So I use the word informed, that is well educated. These Christians who say idol worship is sin and all that, if they study world religions, if they spend some time in India with some Hindus, then they will understand, oh, I was mistaken. There's nothing wrong in worshipping. They are not saying the stone is God. They are saying a stone symbolizes God. That should be okay. See, then they are well informed. Earlier they were ill-informed. Ill-informed means they thought Hindus make a stone. The stone is God. This stone will protect me. This little stone will cure my illness. So they conceive in a wrong way. Then they say, horrible, this is terrible. We must stop them from worshipping idols. That's what they think. So
Thank you.
coming to your question, any form of duplicity, any form of hypocrisy, any form of double standards is, but all this has to be examined more and more. Finally, Satya is state of consciousness. That is a big, we can examine some other time. It's not to be defined in very rigid terms. But that should not be license for you and me to say, yeah, don't judge me on rigid terms. I know what I'm doing. So we must. If whenever higher philosophy comes, our clever intelligence tries to take cover under it. That will be self-deception then.
Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you.
All right. Unless there is some other question, we will. Let me see the second page of my display here. Looks like no. So thank you, and interesting. Though the time changed, all of you have come on time. The daylight saving has begun in the Western Hemisphere, and for India it is.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji. Hari Om, Swamiji.
Yes, Geeta ji. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everyone, Swami.
Hari Om, Swamiji.
Namaskara, Swamiji. Thank you.
Hari Om, Swamiji.
India, and good day to everybody in the West.
Hari Om, Swamiji.
Ram Swamiji.